Ladies and gentlemen, we have on the podcast today Mr. Curtis Graves. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me on here. This is a pretty awesome experience.
So tell the folks, you work for Grundens. Tell the folks your official title and what you do there.
Okay, I'm category manager of outerwear and footwear and a bunch of other categories, but primarily take care of the technical outerwear business along with our footwear program.
Nice. And so do you do any of the actual design work, or are you just mainly working on kind of sourcing and that type of thing?
Well, it's a lot. So I guess the best way to put it is like you sit right at the corner of design and category leadership, as well as as well as it's a little bit of marketing and a little bit of sales thrown in the mix too. It's like business unit leadership, meaning that the job is about figuring out what the market needs, listening to consumers and retailers, and trying to be really close to the fishing community in a lot of ways, and really translating that into how can we build better product or the right product for that market. And that crosses at Grundens, that crosses over between sport fishing and commercial fishing as well.
Yeah.
And I don't design. We've got some really talented designers that we work with that are out of house. I'll hand those guys a brief, and that's basically, it's got a lot of costing targets as well as what the market needs out of the product. And I'll hand them a bunch of references for what is the status quo today, and then it'll have a really detailed description of what we need a project to do and how it needs to perform, and specifically who it's built for. I think then the who it's built for is really important, because we're going to sport fishing piece much different than we'd build a commercial fishing set of bibs or rainwear.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to see Grundens dive deeper into the sport fishing market, trying in the last couple of years creating products that are specifically driven towards that segment of the fishing consumer.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress. I think we're known, I guess if you go back, we're known for commercial fishing, and that's like our heritage and DNA. I think that that piece of the business is really stable and something that we're quite honestly feel really good at. And the sport fishing piece came as an opportunity. I would say about 7 years ago. The brand needed to grow, and they saw a huge opportunity to grow into that space. But it isn't like this cookie cutter. Hey, you can figure out if you can perform in the Bering Sea, or you can perform on a lobster boat. That means you can also perform in a drift boat out on the OP.
Yeah,
it doesn't work that way. So it's been for the brand, it's been a learning curve, and I think trying to figure out what works and what doesn't comes from talking to the right people, having the right ambassadors, and being quite honestly us spending time on water.
Well, and in this environment in 2021, it's not just. Even if your roots are in lobster boats up in Alaska or something like that, you've got bass fishermen in the Midwest. You've got Great Lakes, steelhead anglers. You've got Pacific Northwest. You've got Gulf Coast region anglers. You've got so many different people that you attempt to try to bring into your customer base, whether it's Grundens or anybody else. I just think it's silly to not try to include all those people in one, if possible.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit, every one of those regions and fisheries that you mentioned, they have their own nuances, and they're very, very hypercritical around what works in their territory, because the conditions are so different.
Yep.
And everything, honestly, everything we do is a compromise, right? If we only built rainwear just for folks fishing in the OP, or say the lower Deschutes angler that only fishes that river, it'd be really damn easy. But it comes down to this product that we build has to work in a lot of different environments.
Yeah, that's really a tough part. I could say for us, just being a company called Steelhead, breaking out and growing into a general outdoors market, and creating designs from our end, graphics that speak to all different types of customers in that space has been a difficult task.
Yeah, it is. I guess the thing that, I mean, I've worked in like fishing apparel for nearly a decade, and the thing that I guess that I've seen change in the last 2 to 3 years is like general outdoor consumers are looking to brands that are core in their space, to really it's that legitimacy and core, like fishing brand or like hunting brand or whatever you want to throw out there, that
Yeah.
I think that's really influencing the direction of the outdoor industry today.
Yeah. And ultimately, one of the reasons why we were so excited to work with you guys on this project round 2 is that for me, and I think for a lot of people, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, when you think of outerwear that works, Grundens is right up there in the top 1 or 2. There's just such a history of good quality outerwear. You guys have a soft goods program, and you do all different types of things. But when I think Grundens, I think bibs and jackets all day long, and so it was an easy decision for us to reach out to you guys and try to work on something.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I think like the reason that I think that this collaboration really works is, generally most consumers know us as like the brand that builds orange bibs for fishing in the Bering Sea.
Yeah.
And it's been a journey for us to try to like tap into the core, the core like steelhead angler, as well as like core commercial like sport fishermen. You take a look at like the number of boats that are down, like at a buoy 10 tournament, and you look at that as like that right there is like, that's like bullseye for like P&W fisheries.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, if you went in and just did a scientific survey of those people, like the first thing they're going to think of is our orange PVC bibs, and that's what I think this project's so important for us, is like it's a step outside of our comfort zone, or at least our wheelhouse of what we're known for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it works. I mean, it was yesterday, I posted on Instagram a picture of the bibs and jackets and asked if anybody's had an opportunity to get their hands on them, and the comments are just overwhelmingly positive. Best jacket I've ever owned, best bibs I've ever used. And I think for this project, the Transmit, the Steelhead collab bib and jacket, it's a great price point too, because you have a lot of hardworking anglers out there that are not wealthy folks. They need something that works, but that's also affordable. It doesn't cost a $600-700 jacket or pair of bibs. At $190, that value is super high.
Yeah, I mean, that was our goal in this project. Like we know our customer, has like a strong blue collar, set of roots, and
Mm-hmm.
we also know that like every dollar that they spend with us and project here, every dollar has to count, and it has to be something that like there's value there for those dollars, because those dollars are hard earned.
Yeah.
And we go, like price point for us is like, it's not something, I cannot think of a single time that we built a new product and brought it to market where it's, go build this product first and then we'll figure out what to sell it for.
Yeah.
We always start with like what we think is affordable, or what we think is, and affordable doesn't have to mean cheap. It just means the value relative to the dollar spend is really, that relationship is really important. And that's, like, I mean, I definitely put myself in the consumer's shoes when we're in a line adoption meeting of, is this ready to go? And, is this something that's worthwhile? Would I spend my own money on this product? Is one of the main gates that we go through before we'll put anything in the market.
Yeah, and I think it's cool for you guys to see your brand growing in this space over the last couple years. Really, there's been some pretty some solid names when it comes to this gear in the Pacific Northwest in the sport fishing market. I can say Pacific Northwest specifically because this is where I'm at, but I also see tons of pictures coming in here from the Great Lakes, Northeast, Midwest regions, and more and more and more and more I see the Grundens logo on stuff, and I think that that's cool because there was a couple companies who will remain nameless here that had somewhat of a monopoly on this stuff, and I think it's really cool to see you guys expand into that market and be accepted so readily by the sport fishing market.
And I guess when we started the project, we felt that the DNA of the brand would really resonate with the sport fishing consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And in the PNW, like commercial fishing is, there's a big pot of commercial fishing that happens in the PNW. Anything from like Ballard, Seattle, all the way to Alaska, on the Oregon coast. So folks that grow up here and folks that fit, it just like steelhead happen to like live in rivers that are kind of around like those markets. So I think that we all believe that there was some overlap, in consumers, and we also believe that there's plenty of guys and girls out there that work in our gear that also they recreate on the weekends, and there's like that's the consumer that we really thought like would kind of start this ball rolling for us.
That's a good point. I've had a lot of people come into the shop here and pick this stuff up, and a lot of them come in and go, I wear Grundens every day. Whatever it is they're doing, whether it's like concrete or, in the wintertime, these guys have the PVC orange bibs, and then they come in here and they pick up this stuff for their fishing trips, which is cool. I think it's definitely a good bridge there. So I'm excited for that. So I am curious though, how you got into working in this field. What was the first job that you had that got you into working in this section of the fishing world?
Well, so I guess it goes all the way back to high school. I was my first job ever was working at a marina in North Carolina, and I got a job like power washing boats and painting like anti-fouling paint on bottoms, and quickly learned that job sucked. And the next year I was able to get a job inside the marine store, and that was pretty cool because like you could pump gas and make a ton of money in tips, and like you go from grinding on boats to like pumping gas for folks, and it was like a full kind of like step out of like like this is like okay, like you can work hard and like make money.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. I was like working on like we're up around the water, and the owner of the bike shop pulls up in his boat one day to get gas, and like we started riffing back and forth, and he ended up hiring me, and I ended up working in the bicycle industry, in bicycle retail and outdoor retail, through like last few years of high school and paid my way through college doing that. We had a clinic, and the product manager from Trek Bicycles rolls into clinic us one day, and he says he lays out what a product manager was, and I had no idea this was even a career path, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want to do, because I think that like that right there is super cool. And then kind of work my way into the industry through the ground. Like took temp jobs at ski companies. At Solomon back in the day, like I took a temp job, like paid by the hour with no health insurance to get my foot in the door and kind of work my way into product through that route. And then, like I would say angling, fishing is always, it's been something, it's been a passion of mine that I've had since I was a little kid. Fish since I can't remember not fishing. And it comes, you come up in a way, and I got into fly fishing kind of throughout, late college and, like early adulthood. And that was something where when the door opened to get a job, an apparel job at an apparel company that makes fishing gear, like that's something you sign up for in a minute and run with. So yeah, that's been, and then, kind of along the last decade, it's really been learning how to make it. Like it's easy to make product. It's hard to make really good product. And I think like making product that resonates with consumers, you have to like like you go through this, I would say this mindset shift as like a product person of like, I know all the answers to, like that's what you believe at first, because like you're in a role where you have that control. To like the moment that you start listening to other people, or you put the core user, like mindset on first, and you listen to like what problems need to be solved, and that, I guess that's like kind of how I've always approached making product, is like trying to to listen first, and then put all of that info into like run that through the filter, and then really try to understand what people are asking for without them, because no one really knows what they want. They just know like what doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's the magic, I think, of what we do in the product world.
Yeah. Yeah. And also trying to stay on top of innovation and doing different things in different ways. I mean, it's innovation is a funny word. I think it gets overused a lot, but in your specific world, there's a lot of little things. I mean, just down to buttons and zippers and how things are manufactured, and how hard it was to manufacture something 10 years ago versus how easy it is to manufacture something now, whatever given little piece of that garment is there. That would, to me, is one of the most interesting things about, especially technical gear, as I've seen it evolve over the past probably 10 years, is everybody that's, I'm 40 years old, everybody that's around 40 years old realizes how far technical apparel has come in the last decade, with microporous membranes and different types of welded seams and zippers and that type of stuff. That to me would be the most interesting part of what you do, is how that stuff has evolved.
The innovation word, that's a funny one, right? Like innovation, I guess, is just like being completely comfortable being told no like 100 times, and and really, and that's like there's a lot of no in what we do, from a vendor or a factory or a material supplier, and then there's, I would say that our like the playbook here is on making good product or great product, better, or at least moving the ball forward on what some people would call innovation, what other people would call just like building good product, like status quo stuff. It's really relying on vendors, this business is like relationship based. Like I can, like, there's like the vendors for like that suit right there are all on this phone. We can pick up the call right now if there's a problem, and know you'll get a phone call back within 2 hours. And so like we've leaned heavily on those relationships to do, I would say, to build products like this, because like I there's a ton of trust that has to happen in your team. You also have to, like there's even more trust that has to happen in a vendor that's trying to sell you something. And then like innovation, I would say, like and also say innovation also is like the brand that's willing to test stuff the hardest, and figure out like look for the failures, rather than just like assume that like the thing that you just made is perfect. It's like it's assuming it's going to fail, and understanding where it's going to fail first, and then understanding like how acceptable is that in like overall life cycle of the garment.
The last jackets that we did with you guys, out of the hundreds that we sold, we had to replace 2.
Like it's never good enough, because it's like ideally that would be 0, I think.
Yeah, of course, but we all know that there's an acceptable degree of manufacturer defect that as a business owner and somebody who manages a section of a business, it's inevitable. Human beings make mistakes, you do the best you can, and I feel like that's pretty damn good. And obviously we just replace them on the spot. We no questions asked, but it's, to me, that's really good track record. You know what I mean?
It's, I mean, and I would say, that's by design. Like we have an amazing sourcing team. I get to sit, adjacent to that crew, and it's really, it's really working in a partnership with like a team of people that their job is to like hold factories accountable and drive factories to, like we have a, like we have a third party inspection team that works on our Asia based factories, and then we have a number of quality control in place, like in our own factory in Portugal or in Central America factories, like those like the controls that you put in place are really, it's a direct result of how willing you are to scrutinize your own product and process will turn into like the product succeeding or failing in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we only have a few minutes left here. I want to touch on the graphic tees and hoodies that we created for this product. We talked about the jacket and bib. We all know Grundens makes badass gear, and you would expect nothing less out of this collaboration. When we design and have designed for this collaboration, we always try to push the envelope as far as we possibly could from our end, from an art standpoint, in creating things that were just like totally unexpected from Grundens, first and foremost, and then pushing the envelope of what somebody would expect from Steelhead. So in that, I feel like we've done a really good job with like Captain Chaos last go around, and then this time with the shipwreck design with the mermaid. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you guys like are and work with a bunch of talented graphic designers, and your graphics are super cool. And before I knew you, Alex, I mean, I've always looked at like the stuff that Steelhead did, and I was like, I mean, it's a cool graphic. I've been a fan of the brand longer than I've worked at Grundens and have known you, but I do think that the work you guys do on the graphic side of things is really cool. I think like with you can go as far as you want with like provocative graphics, or you can like do exactly what the consumer expects you to do. And it's really about striking that kind of middle ground between not what's expected, but also something that's like maybe not too far out there. Like, because like if it's if you push it too far, it's like, whoa, I don't know if I can wear that. But I do think that like it's the collaboration is a chance for a brand to step outside their comfort zone and really test the market on what consumers are willing to like jump in on a partnership with you with.
That's a really good point, because we do try to walk that line of, is this taking it too far? Are we asking the customer to think too hard about this one? Like even just this rock and roll one that we did. That's what this one's called, with the record with the Eclipse logo fish. Like, are we asking the consumer to think too much when they see that? Like, what is that? Oh, it's a record. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you guys really got the mermaid right, and I'll through the lens of like our PD team is like we have four ladies and 3 dudes on the team, so it's like we're like heavy bias towards like female contingent of the team.
Yeah.
Every single one of them like loved that mermaid, and they're like, oh my gosh, she's even got Grundens bibs on, that's so
yeah.
And then when you launched it, I just immediately see the consumer like the like on your Insta, like just the feedback. I felt like that. Maybe we didn't push it too far. Like. But like our I feel like we nailed it right for the for the crew that like at least through the lens of like the Grundens customer. I think.
I agree. Well,
and there's so much. There's like. And that's something that we really, as a brand, like you just look at what happens in the saltwater sport fishing world, and it's just like, I mean, that's like chaos in its own show. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're just trying to like build product for like guys and girls who fish. It's like, and that's the whole thing. I think we can like stand on the fact that like our gear's quality versus like needing to like really blow up like the Instagram scene with like skin photos.
You got that one right. Well, I'm super excited that we were able to do this again. This collaboration, it's been awesome for us. You guys can find the products on our website. We've got the jacket, the bibs, both t-shirts, both hoodies, the hat. Grundens is going to have it on their website here very shortly. And
today, actually, like I know we got it all checked in the warehouse. So awesome.
And today is the 7th of May. So You guys go ahead and check it out. You can get it from Grundens. You can get it from us. Either way, you are not going to be disappointed with this stuff. Curtis, thank you so much for hanging out with us and talking with us about this. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to doing a hell of a lot more of it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's rad to, like to work with you, and we really appreciate just like this of all the collaborations I've done. This one feels like the one that's got like the most roots. So
yeah,
it's rad to work with you guys, and you guys are awesome. I love the projects that we do together.
It always works better when you have people who are all on the same page. Everybody sees it the same way.
Yeah, once we're all vaxxed, man, we got to go fish together. I want to get out on the river.
I'm in, man. I'm ready to roll. So let's go. Let's go. All right, man. You take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Alex.